بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I was asked to speak about a number of topics. If you look at the topic that was chosen, Aam al-Huzn, the year of sadness, till the Hijrah, there's quite a number of happenings that took place in the life of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba ridwanullah alayhim. Many lessons to be learned, many things to reflect upon, and many things to enact upon. And indeed, some of the lessons that are so profound that it really brings home a major aspect of the da'wah of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What he went through and all the struggles and perseverances and all the patience he had to, put up with, or rather act in order to spread the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is one of the greatest lessons from the Aam al-Huzn. As a matter of fact, from the beginning of the prophecy of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was a struggle. It was a very, very big struggle. And what brings to mind is the hadith of Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, when she came to our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam after the battle of Uhud, and she said, Ya Rasulullah, has there ever been a day worse than Uhud? And we all know what happened in Uhud, There was many lives lost, many of the Sahaba ridwanullah alayhim attained shaheed. It was a very sad moment, yet at the same time it was a big lesson, and there was rahmah in there, as we all know. And our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, without any hesitation, he said, the saddest day was not Uhud, or was not today, but rather it is the day when I entered upon Banu Thaqif, your people of Banu Thaqif. And if a person look at the story of Banu Thaqif, it is a very sad story in the beginning, but the outcome was very sweet. And this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works with us at sometimes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts us through difficulties. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, literally Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is molding us to become better people. Right? In order to become a better person, you have to endure some pain and some suffering. And through that, the person learns how to live a life of patience and forbearance and so on. And these are big, spiritual states in akhlaq. And our Prophet ﷺ lived this not just because he was a prophet, but he was at that moment when he lived through these difficulties, he was teaching us. Our Prophet ﷺ told us, "Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli." Pray the way you saw me prayed. And he said, "Khudhu anni manasikakum." Take from me your manasik. Take from me the nusuk. How to perform hajj. But at the same time, our Prophet ﷺ didn't only say, take from me how I prayed and how I performed a hajj, but also he said, take from me the way I persevered, the way I, forbeared a lot of things. And as mu'mineen, all of us, we have a responsibility. And whichever sphere, whichever, direction we go into in life, there is a responsibility that we bear. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyyatihi." All of you are shepherds, and every single person is the herd, or is the shepherd of his herd. And we have to look in our areas and our directions that we've entered and see how we can be that particular a shepherd to guide our community, our school, our environment, our colleagues at work, wherever. This is the mission of a Muslim. So that's that responsibility of keeping an upright lifestyle, a lifestyle that is in conformity with Islam, a lifestyle based on knowledge, a knowledge that's followed up with ibadah, and after ibadah with ihsan, with vigilance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a struggle in itself. And this particular lesson of Aam al-Huzn ties in, or it flows into a big, great event that changed the course of mankind's life on this planet, and that's the Hijrah. If you look at history, there are many influences that this hijrah had on the entire existence of mankind in this world. It is our lack of knowledge to really realize how big an influence it had on mankind, you know. But it is our duty to sit down and learn about this, to read about this. And it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly invites us in the Quran to look into, to learn, to open our minds and our hearts for the knowledge, and especially here the seerah of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because he is the vessel that holds the secret, and we are after the secret. There are many things a person can learn, but we are actually after the main, the elixir, the secret that makes us different people from amongst other people. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas. We are amongst the best of people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen from amongst mankind. We have to realize it. Naam. وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. And you are the best of mankind if you are mu'mineen. And what does mu'mineen mean? It means it's a form of submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the seeking knowledge and then enter into ibadah, seeking knowledge and enter into ibadah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the very first surah, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم. Read in the name of thy Lord, the one who created you from a clot of blood. There Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invites us first to read, and then right at the end of that very same surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاسْجُدْ وَقَتَّرِبَ. Then prostrate and draw closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But before one prostrates and draw closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there has to be that understanding of the deen. And that understanding of the deen is by taking a good, deep, intense look into one's deen. You know, sit and reflect. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ أَقْفَالُهَا. Don't they then ponder over the Quran, or are their hearts tied up in shackles? We have to open our hearts and our minds and look deep into this individual who was Hamil, the bearer of the Quran. You know, Al-Quran yamshi, the Quran in motion, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put our beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam through severe tests. And it's unimaginable the amount of tests that our beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam went through, and still he kept on persevering. Where did he get the motivation from? It stems from something, and that is from a very intense and strong belief. And you will be surprised how much belief in something can really transform a person and keep him motivated to go for more and more and more and more, regardless of the circumstances and the difficulties that opposes him or her. Right? Belief is very important, and that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam teaching and nurturing the Sahaba ridwanullah alayhim for 13 years upon belief before he migrated to Medina, and then taught them the actual physical practice of Islam. So important is belief. Now you can imagine if our belief are weak and our iman are weak and our taqwa is crumbles down, what's going to happen with our practices afterwards? Right? So there is a very strong message there that our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, transferred or imparted over to the rest of mankind. The mission was not only to the Meccans or to the Muslims, but to all of mankind. Am al-Huzn. The word am is it's a word given to a year in which there is prosperity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the word am, it's the year of prosperity. Prosperity. When every time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about or uses the word am in the Quran, it spells out prosperity. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word sana or sunun, it means calamity and disaster. Okay? سَبَعَ سِنِينَ دَأَبًا فَمَا حَصَدْتُمْ فِي سُنْبُلِهِ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. The sinin, the 7 years of hardship that will come, as hardship of drought, of famine over Egypt, Allah refers to it as sinin. So why is am used in a year that is filled with sadness for Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Why has that word am been used? The ulama of the past, jazahumullahu khairan, out of adab with Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they never wanted to use any connotation that reflects disaster and calamity, they used am, regardless of. And every single difficulty that our Prophet ﷺ actually went through, the outcome of it was actually khair. Even though it was bitter in the beginning, the sweetness, it's almost to say that the bitter it was, the sweeter the outcome, the sweeter the outcome was. You understand what I'm saying? So, Am al-Huzan, our Prophet ﷺ, during the year of sadness, it's called year of sadness because our beloved Rasul ﷺ came out of a boycott. He was in exile. Our beloved Rasul ﷺ, with all the mu'mineen, had to live outside Makkah in a shi'b, in a valley. The Arabs used to have little valleys around Makkah of Banu Talib. And in this shi'b, in this valley, the Muslims lived. Not for a couple of months. And obviously, if those of you who have traveled to Makkah know how dry the region is. It's not only dry, it's very rocky. And whatever grows there of greenery can't be eaten. So, to live in a shi'ab without any vegetation, especially without water, is torture. And also, it comes with its heat, its intense heat. And if you don't have any shelter, you don't have any water, and even if you stay there for 1 week, it's torture. Our Prophet ﷺ with the mu'mineen stayed there for 3 years. For 3 years. Sayyidah Khadija left everything in Makkah and she lived with Rasulullah. And Abu Talib, his uncle, left because he was family, and he safeguarded Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and left and stayed in the shi'ab of Banu Talib. That was very difficult years. And then alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought them out of the shi'ab, and the agreement that was signed up and was hanged in the Kaaba was a false or an unjust agreement between the Arabs, which was later on broken. And the Muslimin were released from their exile, and they came back to Makkah. And on the return to Makkah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yet faced our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with 2 major calamities. The first one being that Abu Talib, the one who stood in the face of those who opposed him, those who threatened him, those who wanted him dead, Abu Talib stood in the face of that and stopped them from causing any harm reaching our beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, that was a big ni'mah. That was a big ni'mah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to show our beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in future du'as that it is not upon mankind that we rely for the success of our da'wah, for the success of the spread of this deen, and for this deen to flourish. Wherever it is the reliance and the dependence upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is our main defense. This is our first line of defense. This is where Allah Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam later on in his time in Medina, he was opposed so many times. He was even like we would say at gunpoint, but the sword was pointed at his throat, and there was nothing between the man and Rasulullah, apart from that man piercing the sword through Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And he said, "Who's stopping me now from you?" And look at the result that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam said to the man, "Allah." Where's Abu Talib? No. It is that intense connection to the ultimate source of protection. وَمَا تَوْفِيقِي إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ حَسْبِيَ اللَّهُ وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ. That is the understanding of a mu'min. حَسْبِيَ اللَّهُ وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ. Now we always rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every single matter. And Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam displayed it in every single act of his life. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took Abu Talib away from him. And obviously there was a beautiful story about Abu Talib when he was on his deathbed. The Sanadid of Quraysh, the leaders of Quraysh, came and approached him and said, look, you are going to die, you are on your deathbed, right? Can you tell your nephew to leave us alone? Because it became so intense and so severe. Our beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam had, there were instances that really put fear in the hearts of the mushrikun, and one of them was the inshiqaq al-qamar, the splitting of the moon. And when they saw the splitting of the moon, they really got afraid, and one of them said that Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, cast a spell on them, a spell. Okay, and then there was a caravan that approached Makkah, and they asked this caravan, did you see the moon split in two? And they said, yes, we saw the moon split in two. Okay, one half was resting on the mountain, and the other half was sinking down behind the mountain. And so they said, Sihrun mustamir. This is a continuous spell that he cast on our eyes. So they never believed in Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they feared Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam's. The mu'jizat is there to make a point, and Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam definitely made that point. So they came to Abu Talib and they said, look, try to persuade your nephew to stay away from us or stop this da'wah, because it is getting too much now. And he said, yes, I will speak. And he spoke to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Ya if they have to put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left, I will never denounce this religion. That is my stance. And he stood on that. Abu Talib told the Sanadi, the leaders of Quraysh, that my nephew is not going to leave this religion. And then they met all together, because Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I will stop if they do one thing for me. And they said, and they swore by Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam's father, or by your father, even if it is 10 things that you want us to do, we will do it. They said, we swear by your father Abdullah, even if it is 10 things that you want us to do, we will do it if you're going to stop what you are doing. So what did Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam tell them to do? Just believe in La ilaha illallah, and that's it. La ilaha illallah bas. And they could not fathom the meaning of La ilaha illallah in their minds and in their hearts, out of the darkness and the type of hearts that they had. They could not take it in. And they said, how is that possible? How could man live with one God? Isn't multiple gods better than one God? And this is the da'wah of shaitan that infiltrated into the hearts of the mushrikun and transformed their mentality from adhering to a natural understanding of a deity to worshipping multiple gods, which is obviously something pagan and something that does not lead one to any good in this life. So the upshot was that Abu Talib passed away, and the hardship upon Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the suffering upon him alayhi salatu wasalam and his companions increased, so much so that some of the mu'arrikhin and the ulama of Seerah, they said that Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam the ridicule increased. They threw dirt on Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam's doorstep. Dirt was thrown and flung over the walls into his house. Dirt was najasa we're talking about, was thrown into even the qidr, the pot in which Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam cooked his meal, and so on and so forth. All of these persecutions and assaults on Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam became continuous. And da'wah in Makkah became virtually impossible. It became so hard for Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam to do da'wah that Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam had to rely on no one else but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show him a path. And then, a month and a couple of days later, his beloved wife passed away. Now, to understand this particular difficulty and atrocity that came over Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you have to understand what position Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha filled in the life of Rasulullah. Subhanallah. She was the first one to embrace Islam. When Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with a message, she was the first mu'mina, the first one to embrace Islam was a female. It was his wife. And so was the first shaheed. It was a female. And the last one to touch the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was who? Was a female. Now, when he was alive, before he parted this dunya. So Islam has no issues with females being around us and in our lives and being a good part of our makeup as men. And Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, she was this type of woman that supported Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the most difficult of circumstances, where we would say a woman would normally pack her bags and say, bye-bye, I'm gone. Right? Sayyidah Khadija, instead, she stood by his side through thick and thin, and regardless of the difficulties that she, her personal self experienced, she never gave up. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepared her for him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepared her for our beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So a little bit about Sayyidah Khadija al-Kubra radiyallahu ta'ala anha. We said lastly that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepared Sayyidah Khadija for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. A man that was going to be given, ilm al-awwaleen wal-akhirin, a man that was going to be given the knowledge of the first and the last, a man that was given jawami'ul kalim. He says a few words, but one can extrapolate from the words of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam oceans and oceans of wisdom. Naam. For example, Ya Aba Umair, ma fa'ala al-nughayr. Small example of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam's words and how much, how fertile it was or saturated it was of wisdom and hikam. Even a simple comment that Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam gave to a young boy who had a little nightingale, he called it Nughayr, and his name was Aba Umair. He had this nightingale and then it died, and he was very sad. Okay, he was very happy when he had it, and Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as he came upon him and visited his brother, he was very joyous and happy with his pet, and then the pet passed away. And he was very sad. And Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to him, Ya Aba Umair, ma fa'ala al-nughayr. Subhanallah. There's a alim by the name of Ibn al-Qas. He took 300 masail from that. 300 masail. Now some of the ulama, they say jawami'ul kalim. Jawami'ul kalim does not actually refer to the words of Rasulullah. It actually refers to the kalam of Allah that was revealed upon Rasulullah. Those words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is the jawami'ul kalim. Naam? And so some of the ulama, they said the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is filled with wisdom and hikam and guidance for the ruh, for any man, from till the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? And from the Fatiha, one of the ulama said, I can take up 10,000 masail. And then the people said, how is that possible? And then he took from Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen 300 masail only, in front of them. Subhanallah. So this individual, this man that possesses all of this knowledge and this wisdom is going to come and live in the company of a woman who is ordinary. But she is just not any ordinary woman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepared her. She understood men, number one. She was married once, and then she was married again. Now any person who, if a woman gets married and she's not been married before, she knows very little about men. That's haqq. She knows very little. It's either she has to be a very accepting of the advice of others, that gives a sound advice about how to live with a man, then only she will have a sound marital life. But if she doesn't take the advice of others, then she's going to be like any ordinary woman. And even the Ummahatul Mu'minat, other than Khadija al-Kubra radiyallahu ta'ala anha, had that naqus. And Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Kamula min al-rijali kathir. Many men were complete in their akhlaq, the character and the stature and their personality. Walakin lam yakmul min al-nisa illa qalil. There was not many women that reached the status of completeness of woman, except a few. And he mentioned Khadija al-Kubra. She had an understanding of how to put up with a husband's feelings and his desires and his prerogatives and his goals that he's after and his beliefs that he holds high, right, in his life. How to support that, how to nourish that in the house, how to make that the main goal in the life of her life and the life of the family at home. Subhanallah, ajib. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't just give Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam any woman that is single, beautiful, lots of money, maybe a little bit of wisdom. No. She went through 2 marriages to understand what men want in life. And she stood by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam every step of the way. Subhanallah. Imagine sometimes Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as he approached the age of 40, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, حُبِّبَ إِلَيْهِ الْخَلْوَةِ وَالْخَلَاء. He was, to be alone and to meditate was made desired or loved by Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the hadith goes, كان رسول صلى الله عليه وسلم يتحنث في غار الحراء ليالي ذوات عدد. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to go up into the mountain, Jabal Nur, and he used to sit there, ليالي ذوات عدد, many nights. Provisions was taken up with him, and he sat there, يتخنث. One of the ulama, Az-Zuhri, he says, يتعبد. He used to worship there. A worship that was known to Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the Hanafiyin, the people who followed the religion of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, for many nights. What woman would put up with that? Subhanallah. And when he came down, she was not anxious or maybe upset, or she was happy. And she consoled Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, inquired about his stay. And then a couple of weeks later, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would say, I want to go back into the mount, in the cave, and do takhannuth. Subhanallah. And she was happy with that. Not only that, she was a woman that was very successful in her business. And to be successful in business, you have to have a certain characteristic. If you sit with businessmen, they are very patient people and also very impatient people. But their patience, they have to be patient first before they become impatient. And what I mean by that is, they have to put up with a long couple of years of struggle before they reach success in their business. And when they become haughty and mutakabbir, then the impatience comes in. But if they maintain their characteristic and they learn of the previous mistakes and they learn from the previous lessons and they take that with them all the way through their life, they become very good people, excellent people, because they've seen life. Because you're dealing with human beings, and any person that has an active single brain cell in his head, the biggest, most difficult thing that you can experience in life is a difficult other person. Honestly. Come natural disasters, alhamdulillah. Now, if the disaster, if a fire was caused, the whole house was burned up, you know, it was caused by maybe, let's say, for example, lightning, alhamdulillah. But if somebody caused arson, we're not going to give up until we get back from that person what we have lost. Right? So, yeah, Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, she was a woman that lived life. She's seen life. She had many business partners and she had many workers working for her. So she knows how to deal with people. And Allahu Akbar, when Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam put his first wahi, it was difficult. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as strong as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him in character and person, bodily and soully, when he came down that mountain, he was shivering, as you all know. He was shaking. The sweat was dropping from his forehead, like, you know, it was a really intense situation for Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, the minute she saw her husband come down from that mountain, she consoled him. And Sayyidina Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was in panic and he was in fear. It was a lot of emotions all thrown in at once. And he was shivering. And he thought to himself, what has happened? Is Allah subhanahu, have I been, you know, cast under a spell? Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam didn't know what was happening. It's the first time it happened, huh? And Sayyidah Khadija consoled him and covered him up with a blanket. You know, and said, don't worry my husband. Allah subhanahu la yuhzika Allahu abadan. Allah subhanahu will never forsake you. You know, you have done, you know, anta tahmilul kal. You see to the poor and you look after them. وَتُقْرِ الضَّيْفِ. And when the guest comes to you, you treat your guest nice and beautiful. You know, and she mentions so many beautiful aspects of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, reassuring him that look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't forsake somebody like you. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is still in panic. She said, wait, I see you are still in panic. Let's go to my cousin, Waraqat ibn Nawfal. And look at this. The panic and the anxiety didn't subside in Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He's still in fear, he's still in shock. What he experienced first of all of the wahi and what he had seen of Sayyidina Jibreel filling the sky in his original form. Allahu Akbar. That must have been a sight. That must have been something that would put a roar in the heart of any individual. She said, no. If you are not happy, let's go to Waraqat ibn Nawfal at once. And they went to Waraqat ibn Nawfal. And at that time, Waraqat ibn Nawfal went blind. And he was an old man. But he was filled with wisdom. And he accepted Nasraniya, the religion of Christianity, many years ago. Because he had read the books. And he said, this religion of Makkah doesn't make sense. Okay? And he followed the religion of the Nasara. And he knew exactly what happened to Rasulullah. And when he explained to Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam what had happened and what he is experiencing and who he has met, he met Jibreel alayhi salam, and what will happen, then only Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam calmed down. And when he said what was going to happen, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is now back to his normal self. He said, Awa mukhrijiyahum? Are they going to throw me out of this land? He said, yes, there will come a time that they are going to throw you out of this land. These people around you. There was not a Nabi that came with the message that you came with, or came with the experience that you came with, except that they threw him out of his country. It will happen to you. Then only Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam sort of realized what had happened. It happened to the Anbiya before, and he knew that he was chosen. Alayhi salatu wassalam. And the mission obviously carried on. But then look at how Sayyidah Khadija supported him. Not only that, Sayyidah Khadija gave him 7 beautiful children. Allahu Akbar. Of whom, the one amongst them is the second complete woman, Fatima Zahra. And we don't need to speak too much about her, because that will take hours and hours of explaining who she was, the essence of her. The love of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam for her is enough an explanation of how high a rank she has reached. And all the difficulties that Sayyidah Khadija, her mother, went through, and all the talk that went on in the house, all this were lessons and nurturing for the children in that house. And she was a woman of sabr, of perseverance, and she took herself with what she had of possessions, all fi sabilillah. Whatever Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam needed of money to support his da'wah, it was given by Sayyidah Khadija. And then obviously she stayed with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for those 3 years in which Quraysh boycotted the Muslimin. She stayed with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Shi'b Bani Abu Talib, in the valley of Abu Talib, till it was over and she came back. And it was soon after that she died. A nasab, struggle and pain and perseverance. And then Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam came down once. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said to her, this is in the house of Khadija, Sayyidina Jibreel is here and he gives salams to you. Khadija said, wa alayhi salam. But Sayyidah Khadija wanted to know whether this is really happening, because she couldn't see Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam could see. The riwayas differ. The one riwayah goes, she opened her leg and Sayyidina Jibreel didn't disappear. Opened her other leg, and she asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, can you still see him? He said yes. And then she opened her left leg, and she asked Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, can you still see him? And he said yes. And then she took off her khimar, her headscarf, and then he was gone. Right? And Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, I can't see him now. And then Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam said to Rasulullah, tell Jibreel alayhi salam, I give him salams. And on the following occasion, Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam came down and he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives salams to Khadija. And Sayyidah Khadija didn't give salams back to Allah. Look at the wisdom. She didn't give back salams to Allah, but she gave salams to Jibreel. It was only after the Hijrah and in the time of Medina that Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught the Sahaba that you can't give salams to Allah. Look at the wisdom of Sayyidah Khadija. She understood years, decades ago before, a decade before that hukum came down, that you don't give salams to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Jibreel said to her, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for you a castle, a palace in the Jannah. Ma fihi asab wala nasab. There's no difficulty and strife in it. There's only pleasure and happiness in it. For all of what she had done for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now when she passed away, you can imagine the pain Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam experienced. He had 7 beautiful children he loved that he has from her. And the connection became very clear of how the attachment was between the two of them when Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam migrated and married to Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. They say that Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha said herself, I was never jealous of a woman of the wives of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam than Khadija, and she wasn't even alive. Because Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam would have said, Khadija would have done it this way. Khadija would have said it this way. And then Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam did not only stop there, but Khadija had friends in her days. And she loved her friends, her company. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam would go and visit them and pay tributes to them and give them hadiyah or ask them about what they need and so on and so forth, looking after them. And they were friends of Khadija. Allahu Akbar. And Sayyidah Aisha, I could not stand another wife of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I couldn't stand the wife of the Khadija, and she was not even alive. Allahu Akbar. So it shows the attachment of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam to Khadija, and when she passed away, it was a massive impact in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So that consolement, that life partner, the one who reassures Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the one that he can share his troubles with, his anxieties with, his fears with, that wasn't there anymore. Now who is he going to share that with? With Allah. And that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. And that is the lesson for every single da'i that's going to come in the future, that's going to be involved with this deen and going to actively spread the word of Allah and the word of Islam, that there is no other consolement, there's no other reassurer, there's no other, life partner than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a person can do that, then he has a strong basis for a da'i, a strong basis for somebody that can take this deen and do something positive for himself. In the akhirah, like we all sit here now, we are all investors. What are we investing in our akhirah? We're sitting here to learn so that tomorrow we can do something about what we have understood here. We're investing in the akhirah. But how are we going to go about that? Are we just going to go home? That was good information. It was nice, mashallah. Maybe write it down in a book and then close the book and then put it on the shelf. Wait for the next lesson. Alright? It has to transform one. It has to bring out certain aspects of one. Right? It has to create within one a certain desire that tomorrow I want to learn more. This was good, but I want to learn more. I want to know more about my deen. I want to not only just transform, but I want to evolve. You know what evolve means? The monkeys evolved and we became human beings. That is a theory that we don't believe in. But once you evolve, you can't go back. We want to evolve. We want to become like that. And sometimes we relapse. And that is human nature. But when we evolve and we've really seen the true light and tasted it and we've had the dhawq, khalas, then we had it. We had an experience and now we don't want to go back. We want more of those experiences. Right? So Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anhu brought, she left a big empty space in the life of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala filled it very easily. Because he was connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Every single life, nafs will taste death. So after Aam al-Huzn, life became very, very, very difficult for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in Makkah, and the strife became very much more harder. The persecution accelerated, and Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tried as much as he can, but he could not deliver the message. And because he could not deliver the very message that he was sent with to deliver to mankind, that made him sad, and that is why it's called Aam al-Huzn. Not because of the two losses that he had before. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wisdom is beyond any person's. To be drawn back or slowed down by the loss of life of even the closest of family member. The reason why he became sad was the message could not carry on in Makkah, and it was stamped, it was clear. So when Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saw that coming, he decided to go to Taif. And this journey was a very big lesson. A big lesson Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam is teaching us as the followers, and Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam is teaching us as we read his history. He is teaching us. Now, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ فِيكُمْ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. Know that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is among you. Now, and when you listen to the stories of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, know that that is what he wants you to understand and learn. So Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam decided to go to Taif. His name is somewhere here. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam intended to go and meet three of the big leaders of Banu Thaqif. One is Mas'ud, the other one's Habib Layali, or Abd Layali, or something like that is his name. And Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he set off in khafa. He did not, declare that he was going to go to Taif. He kept it hidden, so that Quraysh don't send a group of men to Banu Thaqif, telling them that Muhammad is coming, and then warning them, preempting him, that look, this man that we call insane, he is, it's because they called Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam insane, is coming to you with a message, don't accept it. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam just in secret disappeared from Makkah. Not only that, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam could not take the normal routes that took you to Taif. Because if he travels on the normal routes, people would know him that goes from Makkah to Taif. They would know, oh, there's Muhammad. He's from Quraysh. What's he going to Taif for? Oh, of course, yes, he's got this message, So let's warn the people of Taif. So what did Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what did he do? Him and Zayd ibn Haritha, who traveled with him, they went through the mountains. Now you go and look at those mountains next time when you go on Umrah or on Hajj, and you tell me, with the best equipped gear that we have today, if you can walk from Makkah to Taif through the mountains, over those rocky terrain to Taif, and then get there and still deliver a very important message. Allahu Akbar. Very difficult. And we're not taking into consideration the weather, huh? So Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam went through the mountains, uncharted terrain, and he went. And he got to Taif, and when he got to Taif, he spoke to the main leaders of Taif, and they ridiculed him. They swore at him. And one of them said, isn't he one of the people who took off the cloak of the Kaaba? And then in those days, not the Makkans, but the Arabs, whoever pulls on the cloak of the Kaaba and pulls it off, that's blasphemy. It's a very big sin. So they accused Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam of pulling deliberately the cloak of the Kaaba off, and they spread the word. And when they did not accept the message, after Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has spoken to them in a very subtle, humble manner, respectful manner, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw their response, and he said, look, just take it like this, that I've not been here. Just don't let Quraysh know of me coming to you, asking you to enter into the deen. Keep it silent, secret. They did exactly the opposite. And as Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam left, they ordered their youngsters and their slaves to throw Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam with stones. That is a beautiful rounding off for them. Now that we've insulted you, we humiliated you, we swore at you, right? How isn't there any person better? Couldn't there be a person better than you to come with this message to us? They said to Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he left the company. And as they exited, they threw Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam a stone. Zayd ibn Haritha protected Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam from all corners. And the ulama say we have to look at this particular Sahabi, Zayd ibn Harith. You know, Ibn Ishaq in his Seerah, he says how many hits Zayd ibn Haritha took of the stones of those slaves and children who threw Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. For Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he took it. It's not to say that Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam wasn't hit by a stone. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam was badly injured so much that the blood reached his sandals. Allahu Akbar. No? And then two old enemies, arch enemies of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the sons of this arch enemy, they saw Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam retreating in one of the gardens in Taif. And they saw this from a distance. And Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam was exhausted of running for his life and protecting himself, and Zayd ibn Haritha doing the same. Now Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam is taking some rest. And they saw from the distance Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam is in a very bad state. These are old arch enemies. But then they had a soft spot for Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and they sent their slave Addas, go with this bucket of grapes and put it in front of the poor man so that he can have something to eat. And so Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam is approached by this slave. His name is Addas, and he puts it in front of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam took one grape and he says, Bismillah. And Addas automatically he stopped. He said, what did you say? He said, I said Bismillah. He says, people in this part of the world, they don't say what you said. And Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam is now raising his head and looking at Addas and says, Ya Addas, from which part are you? He says, I'm from Nainawa. Nainawa, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam said. He says, yes, Nainawa. Nainawa is the place where Akhi Yunus ibn Matta comes from. He says, you know Yunus ibn Matta? Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, yes, I know Yunus ibn Matta. Yunus ibn Matta alayhi salam. You know, Jonah, the one who was swallowed in by the whale. He's my brother. He came with the same message as I. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam says to Addas. And Addas lands on his face and he starts kissing the feet of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Allahu Akbar. Now these little, moments, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends to Rasulullah just to remind him that look, you are on the haqq. You are on the haqq, and don't retreat. Move forward. Certain moments of motivation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends to Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And so Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam picked himself up, and Zayd ibn Haritha together, they left Taif again through the mountains into Makkah. Coming back to Makkah, the situation is still the same, has not changed. But at that time, something changed for the soothsayers around the world. Something changed. Now remember, the soothsayers and the magicians, they relied on fortune telling, predicting the future. How they did that was, shayateen, they would somehow, Allahu A'lam, be, do certain things where they can gain the confidence of the shayateen, and the shayateen would go to the heavens, and as the angels transfer the information, during the time of Asr, they would steal some information and bring these information to the soothsayers and the magicians. And the magicians would use this, for their own benefit. But this time, it didn't happen. every time the shayateen went up into the heavens, يَسْتَرِقُ مِنَ السَّمَعِ, when they want to steal from the information that are being passed over from one group of angels before Asr to the others who are coming down to the change of shift, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell them, يَجِدَ لَهُ شِهَابًا رَصَدًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Jinn, there will come a shihab, a falling star. It's not the time to make a wish, but the time to say أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, because it is meant for the shayateen who come and steal the information. And then the shayateen had no recourse to the information. The magicians and the soothsayers were left with nothing to do, and they said, you will have to go and search the planet. Search the planet and see what is causing this to happen. And then Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam was praying one night before he entered Makkah. Now there are different riwayat there. Some say that Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam prayed Fajr. Now we know Fajr was not made incumbent even on Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam there. It only came, the salawat al-khams was only given to our beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam after the Isra and the Mi'raj. Okay, so there's some conflicting narrations, but the ulama, they unraveled it and they make jama' between the ahadith, you know. And so Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam was praying a prayer and he was reading from the Quran, and then the shayateen came and stood and listened. Now there are two riwayats. One of the riwayats is by Ibn Abbas and the other one is by Ibn Mas'ud. And Ibn Abbas says that Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam could not see him, and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud's riwayah says he did see him. And according to Usul al-Fiqh, al-Ithbat, if a hadith affirms something, it takes precedence over the hadith that negates. So we have to know that Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam saw them. And when he finished his salah, he gave da'wah to these jinn. And all of them embraced Islam. Allahu Akbar. All of them embraced Islam. And they submitted to the deen of Islam. And from there, many lessons comes from there. First of all, that the jinn is haqq. And anyone who denies that there's no existence of jinn is a kafir, because this comes in the clear ayat and verses of the Quran. And number two, we have to believe that there are those of the jinn kind that are Muslim and those who are non-Muslim. And like we have responsibilities to live this deen, they have responsibilities to live this deen as well. Okay, there are many ahkam that is extrapolated from that particular happening. Then Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam still had the difficulty of entering into Makkah.